Welcome to the Star Trek Bestiary. This is where we look at the creatures presented in the shows and Trek media that do not really fit into an index, and in this case we're looking briefly into the numerous Starfleet cetaceans that may exist within the Federation. Nobody remind Generation Tech about this. So the existence of cetacean ops in Star Trek has always been a soft canon thing and a bit of a joke. It is brought up in beta canon and in things like reference manuals, but never seen in the shows. However, in the background dialogue we do hear references to it, as well as lines concerning the ship's dolphins, but it was never brought to the fore. Suitable then that this light-hearted semi-joke gets its canonising in Lower Decks at last. First up, what is cetacean ops even for? Well, it is a specialised segment of a vessel designed to house aquariums for marine lifeforms that usually only takes up one section of one deck, maybe two on a larger vessel. It even came equipped with its own evacuation pods for the aquatic inhabitants in case of emergency. So for example, on the Galaxy class we can see that there are 8 water tanks on Deck 13 that constitute this strange operations division, housing a dozen dolphins and 2 whales. Around the edges of the tanks are LCAR's computer displays made for their interaction. Presumably they bump the touch-sensitive buttons with their noses. The responsibilities for this system and its crew was to aid in navigation of the vessel, somehow. Moving on to the actual critters of the show, the cetaceans themselves. So what are they? As far as we have seen, they are always aquatic mammals of Earth that share a high degree of intelligence. So first up there was the common bottlenose dolphin. These dolphins vary a fair amount in size but are generally around 4 meters long. They are very smart, with brains larger than humans, although with grey matter, size isn't everything, no matter what the Telosians say. The next one, and so far the only one confirmed in an on-screen depiction, is the beluga whale as seen in Star Trek Lower Decks. On top of being of comparable intelligence to the dolphin, their melon, seriously that is what the bulbous head is called and that is adorable, can subtly change shape, allowing them to display different feelings. It's how they do facial expressions to one another, and that is super cool. They're usually around 4 meters long. Oh, and after spending time around humans, they often try to mimic human speech, lowering their tone. I'm imagining they basically develop a human accent. It's like when you spend years away from home in another country and gain a tinge of the accent. It even fades again with time away from humans. The final one mentioned is the Takea orca, which, unlike the previous 2 mammals, is actually made up. I know, right? Dolphins hoping to fly a spaceship is totally believable, but for an orca, well, it was a step too far and they had to make one up. In seriousness, this whale was a type of orca, or killer whale as they are more commonly known. In real life, there are many different types of orca, though most look very similar, and the main differences are in behaviour, diet and size. However, all orca are predators and would maybe eat the dolphins, so keeping one in the same tank as the dolphins seems like a bit of a time bomb. Although despite the name, they are a type of dolphin too. Well, the smallest orcas are around 6 meters long, although this 24th century type may be different and smarter than current ones, hence its inclusion in cetacean ops. So, what about the general believability or feasibility of having dolphins and whales as part of a starship's crew? Well, there are many studies that look into the sentience and sapience of many cetaceans, and the results vary with species, so I'll try to focus on the ones we see in the show. Dolphins are capable of learning and innovating, problem-solving, and recognition. This seems to go further than just an animal being trained to perform an action. They actually put thought into a solution before attempting and refining their approach. On top of this, they are social creatures that even extend this to non-cetacean creatures such as humans, working alongside them for food and help. Although a quick disclaimer, don't go trying to pet a wild dolphin, you don't know what's going through its mind, and it may try to harm you and then play with your corpse. These dolphins in particular have even been observed to use tools, forming sponges into protective coatings for their snouts so they could dig with them. The final point I'll mention is that dolphins do address each other using language, with specific clicks and whistles for different individuals, so in a way, they assigned names to one another and they can recognise themselves in a mirror. As for the orca, well, they're made up, so it's hard to judge. Honestly, I'm more concerned by the fact that orca do not like to be in captivity, as they have the urge to travel up to 40 miles a day and dive 100 feet at a whim. There is simply not enough room on a starship for this kind of behaviour, and it's not like they can pop to the holodeck at the end of a shift for a quick splash around. Although transporters do exist. That's a maybe then. My point is that the intelligence required from such a creature would have to be truly comparable sentience to a human. The ability to acknowledge and choose that they are effectively at work and understand that the limited space they have at their disposal is only temporary. All of these studies tend to attempt to quantify the same sort of thing, intelligence, and that is surprisingly difficult because you are in effect attempting to distinguish between behaviour through learning and that extra step of understanding. Suffice to say, although cetaceans are really rather clever, it's not as if they can do complex mathematics in the calculations required for astronavigation. So in Star Trek, these cetaceans either have undergone an evolutionary jump in intelligence, or there is some genetic tampering in the Trek past we don't know about. Alternatively, these creatures might not be quite at the level of humans when it comes to plotting courses in space, but have some other natural aptitude for it that Starfleet has learned to harness, bringing them on board vessel to serve in that capacity in much the same way as the military currently trains dolphins to help them out with underwater operations. The simplest answer is that dolphins and whales are indeed very intelligent, but they are great at being dolphins and whales and not humans. So any integration into a starship would have to cater specifically to their way of thinking and approach to, well, everything. So yeah, that is everything I know about cetacean ops in Star Trek, and some interesting factoids about those who have been seen to man those stations. Well, not man, though. You know what I mean. Thanks for watching this, Bestiary, and I hope I could entertain until the next one. Thanks again, and goodbye.